Hi everyone, it's Julie. I have some really exciting news. I have been wanting for the longest time to create my own Seint palette. I've always thought it would be really cool if Seint would have artists design some of their palettes. The palettes are great, but I just feel like there's never one that fits every personality of woman out there. So I loved the marble palettes, but unfortunately I was not a client at the time that the marble palettes came out, so I wanted to make my own. So I researched and I looked into alcohol inks. I had never used them before. I was familiar with them, but had never played with them. So I got some at Michael's and I experimented and played, and I decided to jump in with one of my white Chateau Seint palettes and try out this marbling effect. So today I present to you, I don't know how well this is showing up on camera. This is my Seint Chateau palette with the gilded alloy alcohol ink and a teal marble effect. Okay, I decided to do one side. Okay, I could totally do the back, but I decided to do one side. It's still drying, but I was just so excited to show this to you. What I did is I just put a piece of paper between the top and the inside, and I have a video. I'm going to edit it and show you exactly how I created this design. And of course, with those palette credits, I'm going to continue to collect these Chateau palettes while they are available and do some more custom designs with the alcohol ink. And you know, the sky's the limit. If you are an artist and you are creative, what's to stop you from using these archival pens and markers and alcohol markers and things like that, which stain the cover? The paper on the Chateau is perfect for alcohol inks. It's not porous. They spread really nicely. So I did not even have to use a fixing spray or Mod Podge. Actually, Mod Podge leaves brush strokes, so I decided not to do Mod Podge, but it is absolutely gorgeous. There is a learning curve to learning how to do this. So without further ado, here is how I did it. Okay, I have the Seint Chateau white palette. It's gorgeous, but what a perfect canvas to do some customized designing on the front. I'm going to take a piece of paper, fold it over, and I'm going to place it underneath the top of the palette. This will catch any ink that goes off the side. I'm just going to do the front today because the inks take a while to dry, and I could totally do the back, but I was just so excited to show this to you today, so I just stuck with the front of the palette. So just to let you know, these are the alcohol inks. I'm just setting them out. All right, I have an empty metal tipped applicator bottle, and I'm going to pour my teal color, and I'll try to link all of this information in the description box, what colors I use. I'm going to take alcohol and the pure ink in the teal and mix these two together. So with alcohol inks, alcohol will dilute or make the ink lighter and more of a wash. So I want a lighter teal, and I'm putting in a little bit of this white mixing pearl in with it. So I'm going to give it a pearly, lighter teal coloration there, which is what I want because these alcohol inks are very intense. So I knew I wanted a lighter blue. So here is this beautiful light teal, has a little bit of a pearl, and I'm going to show you what the pure alcohol ink in teal looks like. Look at how dark that is. And you can totally use the ink right out of the bottle. So I'm just rubbing off some dust, and I've got my alcohol blending solution that you have to purchase separately from the inks. And this is going to help the ink move across the palette. I'm going to zoom in here and show you what happens when we drop our diluted lightened teal ink color that I customized on top of the alcohol blending solution. And you'll see that the alcohol blending solution allows me to pump some air through the squeezy tool, which is also sold separately. I bought all of these materials at my craft store, and I just continue to pour the solution over the blob of ink. And what's happening is, as you're squeezing air across the surface of the palette, the ink is starting to set and stain the white palette paper, and you're going to maintain some of these striations, some of these darker areas, some of these lighter washes of color. So it's really fun to play with. You don't have to rush, because if you're using a non-porous surface like the paper that's used for the Chateau palette, it takes a while for the ink to dry. Now I'm going to go in with my pure teal ink right out of the bottle, and I'm just putting a very small amount, and you'll see how this pure ink just really grabs on. So I'm going to go back and probably pick up some more of the blending solution and continue to dilute and lighten this color. I want very gradual gradations of color. I don't want obvious blobs or drops on here. I want it to look like marble. You can see here that I'm pouring a little bit of this solution right over the logo. The ink has resin in it, so it's going to give it a shellacked, glossy finish. You do not need to use Mod Podge or anything like that to fix or set these inks. And with that said, you do need to make sure that your room is well ventilated. You have a fan on, because there are fumes. Now I'm taking a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. It's about a 90% concentration of alcohol, so it's quick drying. And this is going to lighten the colors. Like if I have an intense area of color, I can take my alcohol and lighten the color. So the blending solution is going to move the color but keep the intensity, while if I'm having trouble lightening a color and getting that wash that I want, I'm going to switch to the alcohol. So I kind of go back and forth between the blending solution and the isopropyl alcohol. You just really have to be patient. Don't give up. You can always go back and kind of lighten the area with alcohol. If you make a mistake, just use the isopropyl alcohol to kind of remove it. My idea here is to have the most intense depth of color on the right edge of this palette, and it kind of flowing across, and I want to retain some of that crisp white, which I loved about this palette originally. But now that I've got that artsy idea to use these inks and customize my own palette, I wanted to venture out and try something on this palette. And I plan on using my palette credits with Seint to continue to buy more of these Chateau palettes. There is a cream palette as well. I think it was a Mother's Day color a year ago, but I really prefer the crisp white. If you look at videos online concerning alcohol inks, you'll see a lot of the artists that use these inks use a hair dryer, which I have used before. It works great, but this is such a small project, I thought I would just use the little squeezy puffer thing. And now I'm going to add on some of this gilded gold leaf liquid alloy. And this is going to give you the look of gold leaf. I did try on my practice sheets some actual gold leaf with glue, and it was just really hard to get the striations the way I wanted to. You had to really have a tiny paintbrush and just do very thin veins. It just didn't look very natural. I love this product. Again, this is a liquid gold leaf. It's going to separate and break up into little chunks, and that's what makes it look like the gold leaf. They also make a mixing ink with the pearl. Those will blend with the ink colors. You're supposed to use them with the pure ink colors, and they give you like a metallic color, where the alloy, which I just used in this gold color, sits separate from the ink. So it's going to retain that gold leaf appearance. There were several times throughout this session where I was like, oh man, I really messed up. I liked it about 5 minutes ago and I've really gone too far. You know, as an art teacher and someone having a fine arts background, I've always kept in mind the philosophy that less is more. Sometimes you do have a tendency to go overboard. If this happens in my classroom with children, they're having fun and I see something that looks great and then 5 minutes later they've just gone overboard. So you really want to keep in mind that, you know, you can always practice on your non-porous sheets of paper. There's a paper called Yupo, Y-U-P-O, which is really popular with this medium. You can use photo cardstock, vellum. You can use this on glass. It just needs to be something that's non-porous, because if you use this ink on a paper like watercolor paper or mixed media paper, you are going to find that the alcohol inks do not spread. They do not stay liquid. They absorb into the paper and you cannot work with them. So right about now is when I'm feeling pretty good about what I have going on here. This looks like marble to me. And you know, this really would have been an attractive palette had I had done it on both the front and the back. And you know, I might go back and do that. But you know, like the ink, it does take a little bit to dry, especially with this amount on the top. So I did not want to ruin it and turn it over. I mean, I guess in a few days I could turn it over and do the back. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Do I need to do the back side? All right, I just love the gold foil logo. I definitely want to kind of clean that area up and have that showing. So I'm moving all this color away from the logo. This is a tool that is sold very near the section that has the alcohol inks in it. This is a foam tool. It's a wooden stick with a little bit of foam on the tip. And this is great. If you use a little bit of alcohol on the tip, you can kind of erase areas of color. So if you need to do any detail work, you could just take your sponge tip applicator or even a paintbrush and kind of blend away some of the color as I'm doing right here. And I'm taking off the excess color onto the watercolor paper pad. I forgot to mention this. A lot of artists that use alcohol inks use a piece of glass or plexiglass to work on because it wipes clean. That's very cost effective. It's an investment though. So I didn't have the money right away to go out and purchase that, but I did have some large sheets of watercolor paper, which I just put directly underneath my project, and it kind of absorbs any roll off. And here is the finished project. I really love it. And I even did a complementing makeup look on my eyes to go with it. I didn't realize it, but I really like these two colors together. It's even in my bathroom.